What's up, everyone? Evan here, and it's Wednesday morning, so you know what time it is. It's time to talk about some new X-Men comics. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, to the point. Just right now in this video, talking about the new volume of Cable that came out this morning. So I'll do a quick review of Cable 1 with heavy spoilers, so warning on that. And then we'll see later on today or in the week, perhaps, I'll probably do another video reviewing X-Men number 8. But I haven't read that one yet. I started with Cable today, and it was so interesting. I figured, you know what, there's enough there for the live stream. We can talk about just Cable. Now, starting with, to set this up, this is the teenage version of Cable, the time-displaced teenage version. They're all time-displaced, whether they're young or old. Cable is always time-displaced. But, I've seen a lot of hate for this teen version of Cable. It's not what people want. It's not what the original creator Rob Liefeld wants. It's not what a lot of the fans want. It's not what, even people leaving comments just on my videos, they don't want it. So there's an uphill battle, I would say, for the writer and artist team and editorial team, everyone at Marvel putting together a teen Cable comic, because it's, on the face of it, doesn't seem to be what anybody wants. But there is some, even for the old school fans, there's something in here for you. Once you get to the last page, that'll be pretty clear what is going to happen, or I've got some predictions for what will happen in this title. But first, again, I said there's going to be some difficulties for the writer artist team, but it's a pretty good writer artist team in my opinion. We've got GERRY DUGGAN writing it. We've got PHIL NOTO, one of the best writer slash not writer, just penciler slash inker slash colorist, best all-around artist that you can get on a title. If you want the complete package in one, you call PHIL NOTO. And I've loved PHIL NOTO's art for years, but I feel like I'm misremembering something, because I just looked him up again before I started this, did some brief research, and he's an American artist, but for whatever reason, I thought he was a French artist, or that he had done some work in French comic books years ago. I could be wrong on that, but please, if anyone remembers any PHIL NOTO bande dessinées, as they say in France, en français, let me know in the comments or in the chat while we're live if you know this, because I couldn't see any evidence of this, and I feel like it must be the Mandela effect for me. Like, I had assumed that PHIL NOTO had done French comic books in the past. Of course, he's done a bunch of Marvel and DC comic books, including, I think my favorite run by him was when he was working with Reminder on Uncanny Avengers. Like, that series was really great with art by PHIL NOTO. But, this new stuff, also awesome too. So let's get right into talking about this issue of Teen Cable. So it starts with a fight in the quarry between Wolverine, Logan, and Nate Summers, young Teen Cable. And if you didn't know, apparently the quarry is just a place on Krakoa, on the Mutant Island nation, where everyone, they can fight. They could have one mano a mano combat, or mutano a mutano combat. And this one is apparently the 13th fight. We don't see the first 12, but we do get a page showing you the results from the first 12 fights in the quarry. And the current fight is Logan versus Cable. And you know whose book it is, so you got a good guess about who's going to win this one. It is Teen Cable takes it, to the shock of many of the mutants in the audience, whether it's Callisto, who had previously won herself 3 fights in the quarry. I mean, just for the heck of it, here's the win-loss record so far. They also tease something that I think is pretty interesting, the idea of Magic did something, pictured right here. Magic, Ilyana Rasputin, did something so terrible in the quarry that she was disqualified from the fight that she had with Gorgon. So Gorgon won that first round, and then, let's see, who won the next one? Nightcrawler and Blink had a draw. They were equally good. They both just kept teleporting around the arena, and then it's a draw. Nobody wins. Next up, we've got one of the Cuckoos defeats one of the other Cuckoos. Esme defeats Irma. Who knows who's better? I don't really know so much about those characters as individual characters. I always think of them as the collective of the Cuckoos. Let's see. Next up, Rogue beats Havoc. Then Magma beats Firestar. Then M beats Bishop. Then Wolvesbane beats Pyro. Then this one was tough for me because I love both these characters. Dazzler beats Jubilee, but hey, it makes sense. Seems like Dazzler would have a little more experience with light-based fireworks type powers. Then Leech beats Artie, brutal. And then Callisto begins her run. She beats Pyro, then Fish, then Jumbo Carnation. And then, like I said, we begin this issue with Logan versus Cable. But Cable wins it, and then has this line in here about he asks Wolverine after he knocks him down and sticks, like Wolverine cuts up his big gun. You know that Cable loves big guns. So Wolverine cuts up his big gun, and then Nate Summers' Cable takes the two pieces of the big gun, sticks them on the end of the claws, and then Wolverine can't get up. You know, that plus his heavy metal, literally heavy metal skeleton makes it so he's basically pinned to the ground. And he asked him, Nate asked Wolverine, is your metal ass too heavy to move? Which just stuck out to me because that's something they don't really talk about a lot in X-Men comics, but it's something you would be like, you would ask yourself that question after 5 minutes, like how is he able to walk around carrying all that metal coated to his skeleton? Unless it's like really light metal, which, you know, that's another plot point in this issue. They find eventually, first spoiler alert, they find eventually a sword, a Galadorian sword that was stuck in a lion's paw, a big mutant monster space lion. I don't know if he's from space or not. The sword's from space though. But if you don't remember Galador, this is going back a bit to the 1970s ROM Space Knight. If you remember, Marvel used to do all these licensed comic books. Like they would have these deals with like Mattel or Hasbro or whatever toy company, or like they were publishing, you know, I mentioned this before, Conan Comics, so dealing with the estate of Robert E. Howard, or Godzilla Comics dealing with the, you know, the Japanese production company. But one of those, a comic based on a toy, ROM Space Knight, which is the other interesting thing about Marvel licensed comics, is that a lot of times, even though they know it's licensed, they're not going to be able to reprint this in the coming years. They don't own it. They would still like make it a part of the Marvel universe, which just makes things trickier, you know, for future writers, because you can't. ROM's owned by, I forget, I want to say Mattel. It's a Mattel toy. So ROM is owned by that toy company. They can't mention ROM anymore, but they have for decades now mentioned ROM's home planet of Galador and then all the other Space Knights. I forget all their names. They're kind of minor characters. But they've had like spin-off miniseries that have had nothing to do with ROM, like one by Jim Starlin and Chris Batista in the early 2000s. Just going to move this down here, start working on this Wolverine. And that was just called Space Knights, I believe, by Jim Starlin and Chris Batista. And then they reprinted that same one like the year before in the comics. They ended up just blowing up the planet of Galador. So I think that's where we were at the last time we checked with this these Space Knights. Their home planet's been destroyed. And now Cable, after pulling this sword out of the lion's paw, he's got this Space Knight sword, which he mentions as being like, this is a really light metal. Or actually Cyclops comes along. He's like, hey, Dad. And then Cyclops mentions, this is a really light metal. I'm not sure this is from Earth. It's probably a Space Knight sword. And just getting the sword out triggered also the release of these, I guess, other Space Knights that were up in a museum. They're out in a museum in space. And it's so funny. The guards are like, looks like someone's stealing the exhibit. But they've just been woken up, I guess, because of the release of this sword. It almost feels like a weird bit of synchronicity for me because, you know, like last Saturday, if you watch my video on Saturday, I was talking about King Arthur movies. And, you know, flash forward a couple days later, this new Cable comic's like, whosoever shall pull this sword from the lion's paw will be crowned king of the Space Knights. No, not quite. But I'm getting some King Arthurian vibes. But, okay, the last couple pages of this issue, again, for people who are worried about this teen version of Cable, you're like, not my Cable. This is not my Cable. Don't worry. Your Cable, our Cable, old man Cable is back. He comes back in the last couple of pages here. He's blowing up some crab people, classic Cable. Crab people. Taste like crab. Talk like people. So Cable's blowing them up, and it's Old Man Cable. So I feel like, we're building towards a conflict between these two time displaced versions of the same character. And who will win? Well, I have a good guess about who I think the fans want to win, and that's the original Old Man Cable. So we will see what happens, because I think the last time they met, wasn't it Teen Cable and Extermination ends up killing? He kills Old Man Cable and then basically takes his place, which is ironic because, well, for a bunch of reasons, but the big one in terms of that plot was like, wasn't Teen Cable sent back to make sure the teen versions of the original 5 X-Men got sent back to their point in time? So it's like he was trying to fix this mess, but he's creating the mess too because he's another teen displaced version of a character that's supposed to be much older, if that's confusing enough for you. But, who's your money on? Again, let me know in the comments who you think's going to take the prize and end up being the star of this latest version, this latest volume of Cable. Although, it's not all bad with this Teen Cable. A couple of other interesting things, fun stuff in this book. I'm not sure, though, if it's making reference to plot points in other titles. And what I mean by that is, if you read New Mutants, going back to New Mutants like issue 3 or 4, the big pink Glob character, Glob Herman, he's venting his spleen, so to speak, to Armor in that issue about how he's got a crush on Pixie. But then if you look at this new issue of Cable, Cable's like, I got a double date after the fight with Logan. And his double date, traditionally you think of a double date like, okay, I'm going to go out with someone and then you go out with someone and then we go out together, right? That's the double date. It's two couples going out on a date. And if that was the case, it would be like what? Cable and Glob going out with, or let's say Cable and Armor would be the date, and then the other date is Glob and Pixie, because Glob's got this crush on Pixie. But here, Cable says he's got a double date, and then the next page is just him with just Armor and just Pixie. And it's like, this is really more like a throuple. Like they're going to, I believe, Hanoi to all have dinner together after his victory in the quarry. So what do you think? Is this Teen Cable a bit of a player? Or is he a bit of a wingman? We just didn't see him, and he's trying to hook Glob up. He's trying to set him up with Pixie. And she is, Pixie in this issue is just making fun of Cable a bit. But we don't know if that's because she has a crush on him. Like the love triangle. The Krakoan, all the issues they're having with love in the Dawn of X era is really something. And maybe it's just, Cable just takes after his old man, takes after Scott Summers. Never bet against the Summers. That's what they say. But what was it? Pixie's line, she says to him, this testosterone plus terrific. We got a portmanteau going on there. But anyway, that date gets cut short when they have to eventually go save a young mutant from this space lion or mutant lion, monsterite lion that has the sword in its paw. And like I said, they fixed that. They got through it. So that's the issue. I know a lot of people are not big into this teen version of Cable, but I don't hate him. There was a good comment I got last week about how he was, didn't have his finest moments in that Fallen Angel miniseries, but it's not so bad as solo title. And also, pretty entertaining in the X-Men proper by Jonathan Hickman, who, BT Dubs, I believe was the writer that ended up destroying Galador in the Infinity miniseries that he wrote in 2013. But is Galador back? Are the Space Knights back? Were they ever really gone? Is dead really dead in Marvel Comics? You know the answer just as well as I do. Absolutely not. So I'm basically out of here for today. Oh, I had one other note. Cable's basically Zach Morris, starting with the timeout at the beginning and just his overall attitude and the love triangle stuff is giving me very strong Saved by the Bell vibes. Zach Morris is Cable, is Nathan Summers. But before I go, that's it. Last bit on the Cable comic. I'll just show you what I've been working on. It is wider view here. This is this X-Men piece I've been working on. And most of these characters appeared in this week's books. Again, I haven't read X-Men 8 yet, but I know Magic's in there. She's on the cover. She gets name dropped in this Cable's, of course, in his own comic versus Wolverine. Cyclops shows up as well. maybe can't tell here. This is Psylocke, but is she in one of these issues this week? I'm not sure yet. But like I said, I'll come back later on, either today or later in the week, and do a follow-up review for X-Men 8, maybe New Mutants number 9, see what's going on in those titles. But the latest I'll come back, absolutely, come back on Saturday night for another live stream. Join me for that, why don't you? And if you like the video, like I always say, please smash like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tap the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. And thanks for joining me for this review and this quick art live stream. Until next time, everyone, keep drawing, have a great week, and I will see you in the near future. Peace out.